Zohran Mamdani doesn't particularly care how his program is funded.
You have said that you want to raise $9 billion in new taxes, increasing taxes on the wealthy, on businesses, in order to fund your key policies like universal child care, which you mentioned. You would need Governor Kathy Hochul to be on board with this. You'd need her signature. She has never publicly committed to increasing taxes. I know you just spoke with her. Mr. Mayor-elect, did Governor Hochul commit to you that she will support and sign on to your plan to increase taxes?
The governor and I had a productive conversation, and what we both committed to is working together for the affordability agenda. And one thing I appreciate of the many about Governor Hochul is that she's been focused not just on affordability, but specifically on universal child care for quite some time. And now is the time to bring a partner forward in City Hall. And I've said plainly and openly that I believe that these are two tax proposals that make sense, increasing the personal income taxes on New Yorkers making $1 million or more by just 2%, increasing the top corporate tax rate to match that of New Jersey. And what I've also said is more important than how we fund something is that we fund something. And if there are additional or alternate revenue streams to do so, I will accept them and I will celebrate them.
I'm Rich Lowry of National Review. Now, the fact that Mamdani needs taxes to fund his program raises an interesting question. I thought it was all free. Why would you need taxes to pay for something that's free? The oxygen we breathe is free. No tax increases are necessary to fund oxygen. But this gets to a very important truth. Nothing is free when it comes to government, but Mamdani has a socialist view that there's a big rock candy mountain out there where no one has to work and the champagne flows in fountains.
No axes, saws, or picks. I'm a-going to stay where you sleep all day, where they hung the church that invented work in the big rock candy mountain.
But the big rock candy mountain doesn't actually exist. There's always at least an opportunity cost to providing a free benefit. You could be focusing your time and attention on something else. And then almost always there's a cost indirectly, maybe to someone else. You're hoping that other person doesn't notice so you can sell the direct benefit as free, but there is indeed that other cost. Take free buses that Mamdani talks about. Now, it's very unclear there's going to be any benefit to free buses whatsoever if you could actually achieve that. Studies show the people who take a bus when it's actually free were people who are going to walk or ride a bike anyway, so there's not a big climate upside to free buses, and it's going to cost revenue because people are currently paying for the buses. So that's 600, 700 billion dollars that has to come from someplace else. And actually, in terms of the bus riders, free buses might make the experience worse. What New York City residents say is they want the buses to be more frequent, to be cleaner, to be more reliable. And a free bus doesn't achieve that. But again, there's a huge cost, 60 to 600 to 700 billion dollars. That is the opposite of free.
We made one bus route free across each borough. With the Q4, we saw that ridership went up by more than 30%. And I think it comes back to this: if you were to make it an easier journey, a safer journey, more people would take that same journey.
Same thing with rent control. Who can be against lower rents for apartments? But this has been tried in city after city, and it fails every single time, including in New York City in the 60s and the 70s. The problem is if you control the rent of an apartment, that creates an incentive for the current resident to stay there forever. Why would he or she move if he or she has a fantastic deal on his or her current apartment? So that reduces, in effect, the supply of available housing. And when you do that, the cost of the rest of the housing goes up. So people are frozen out of the markets. Meantime, the landlord is not making as much as he would otherwise from the rent-controlled apartment, has less incentive for upkeep and maintenance and investment in that apartment. So that housing stock, the rent-controlled housing stock, inevitably deteriorates. At the same time, prices are going up for the unregulated housing stock. A bad deal all around. And this rent control cycle is associated with the famous, ladies and gentlemen, the Bronx is burning broadcast during a Yankees World Series game in 1977. Those words weren't actually spoken, but the Bronx was indeed very often burning.
That is a live picture, and obviously a major fire in a large building in the South Bronx region of New York City.
And this brings us back around to taxes. Now, Mamdani is going to be just the mayor of New York City. He can't raise taxes. He needs the state legislature in Albany to do that and the governor to do that. Now, although Governor Kathy Hochul cravenly endorsed Mamdani at the end of his campaign, so far she's saying she's not going to raise taxes, which basically would blow almost all this program away. But now she's beginning to show cracks in her edifice, not necessarily on personal taxes. Mamdani wants massive tax increases on upper income New Yorkers that would have all sorts of downside consequences. Instead, reportedly, Hochul is open to increasing the corporate tax. This is another Big Rock Candy Mountain type issue. Everyone figures, well, they're just corporations. They can afford it. This is a tax that's essentially free for everyone else because we're just levying it on corporations. Not how it works at all. This is one of the most economically destructive taxes out there because it's passed around down to workers in the form of lower wages, very bad thing. Passed down to consumers in the form of higher prices, also quite bad, and discourages investment in successful businesses. So this idea is a stone cold loser, and this would give New York State the highest corporate tax rate in the country, as Mamdani referred to in the clip. It'd be tied with New Jersey, but is that a good thing? Does anyone think of New Jersey as an economic dynamo? No. And that high corporate tax rate is one of the reasons why. So what we're going to have possibly is a free tax on corporations to pay for a lot of free stuff. This is a double lie. And it just goes to how childish socialist economics is. The socialist just focuses on what's directly in front of them in a highly simplistic way, right? Rent control. The rent is lower for some segment of people. Wow, what a great benefit. The buses are free. Wow, what a great benefit. Not accounting for the fact they're downsized and cost all around this transaction. It's a little bit like a kid goes with his parents to the bank and gets a free lollipop and thinks, isn't this amazing? It's free. And sure, the kid has gotten the lollipop for free, but someone had to produce that lollipop. Someone had to buy that lollipop. There has to be labor involved to actually hand the lollipop to the child. So it's a very minor cost, but it's not free. Nothing is free. It makes sense for the bank to do that to enhance your customer experience at a very low cost, but it is not free. There's no Big Rock Candy Mountain. There's no free lunch, and there's no free Zohran Mamdani program. And I fear New Yorkers are going to learn this lesson in the coming years, good and hard. I'm Rich Lowry, over and out.